Hey, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We're here with Dylan Vanas, and he is from AgencyBox.com. Now, Dylan is going to be talking to us today about personal branding and getting yourself out there. He shared the stage with people like Gary Vaynerchuk, and he has 2 8-figure businesses he's built. So he's going to be talking about just how to get these thousands of followers and how to put out the content, but have the content translate to sales. So, Dylan, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having me. That's a
Yeah.
tongue twister.
It is, but we show up the way that we show up, and we do our best. And that's one thing that I found about you. I was doing a little bit of research about you earlier today, and I saw some podcasts where you were talking about how it's important to just start wherever you at, whatever you have to say, just start creating the content. And what's more important than anything else is to kind of develop that habit of consistency. So I will always be keeping that in mind whenever I think, oh, I messed up that word or that could have been better. It's like what matters more is just keeping the train rolling. Am I right?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times people get stuck up on this thought of like, it's gotta be perfect, or I have to know everything before we start. But the reality is knowledge isn't action. Like I have friends that have read 3, 4, 5 times the amount of books I've read, but have not got any actual result in their life. So the secret to success is simple. It's just move forward every day, take action, and screw everything else.
I love it. So take action, and then the rest will work itself out as far as the mistakes, as far as adjusting. And I mean, you think about, you could be the most well-read person about how to run a marathon or climb a mountain or drive a car. You can read all the manuals, but unless you actually drive a car, like, you won't really get anywhere. And so why is that? Why is it that some people have all this knowledge and don't take action, and other people just are fearless and do the things that need to be done despite the low self-esteem? Like, how do we tap into that energy?
I think there's like some people have they're perfectionists, right? And one of the advantages I had, maybe it's a disadvantage, but is that for me, and when I was in high school, it was like, what can I do to go ahead and shorten the gap between starting and getting a result. For me in school, when I was in high school and college, I would literally towards the time of the exam, I would be running the math before taking the exam. It's like, okay, what's the lowest grade I need to get right now to pass? And then I can like reverse engineer, okay, here's roughly how much work I have to do in order to study for this exam. And so for me, it was like, what's the efficient path forward, not the perfect path forward. And that's, that's kind of been the thing. It's like, there is truth in there's no shortcut to success. Like anytime we try to cut a corner, eventually it comes back around on you. But there is also the flip side, which is like, you gotta just do it. And I think finding that happy medium between being comfortable, like knowing enough information, and just like doing the work, it's important to find out what that is for you.
Yeah, there's like the level of being comfortable enough, knowing the information enough, versus just getting some kind of result. And it seems like with that math class specifically, you sort of Tim Ferrissed it, right? You said like, well, there's all this stuff I could focus on, but instead of giving it like an equal distribution, here's what requires my attention, just with the goal of not getting 100% perfect grade, but just with passing. And I mean, that kind of mentality, I wish I had that when I was younger as well, because I used to beat myself up, right? When there would be like B+ students, A+ students, and it seemed like once you get past like an 80% test score or 80% grade in a lot of cases, there's like diminishing returns, right? It takes like 5 times, 10 times the amount of work just to eke out a little bit more of a grade percentage versus just getting it done. And I mean, I think that a lot of times, if there's something new I know I need to be doing, I'm just like, let me just get a little bit done. Let me get that social media post done, or figure out that new software, just so that way, like, I'm encouraged to continue, because there's just so that way I can see like some kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. And so I read a little bit about you and your bio and these companies that you built and AgencyBox. And I know that you are you have kind of, speaking of kind of the simple kind of mentality, is you have an agency, right? Where that means that you get all this work, you get these clients, but instead of you having to manage 100 different companies, you like manage a team, you build your employees, you kind of work smarter instead of harder. So can you tell us about that? Tell us about these companies you built and what it takes to run an agency.
Yeah. So You think the work smarter, not harder system would allow me to have more free time, but it doesn't. I'm definitely in I mean, dude, I used to look at people who were busy. I'm like, oh God, like look at this guy. He's like working all the time. And for me, would wake up with like 0 text messages, right? It's like, I have nothing to do today. And now it's the flip. It's like I can't even I don't even get to my text messages. If I were to take a look right now, I have 104 unread text messages and I cleared them out last night. So it's like definitely definitely I'm in a place where I've got 100 employees. I've got a lot going on, but I've got 2 main companies. So just to stop complaining there for a second, the reality is I'm super grateful to get to do what I do. So I have 2 companies. One's called Mindful Agency. We're known for building personal brands. So what we do is we take people. Typically, they're people like guys and gals who are successful IRL, meaning in real life, and but they're not really known online, and we help them elevate their online presence. So establish the authority, get the content system going, and tap into other people's audiences to build your own audience, and you kind of build. It's kind of like a pyramid. It's like authority, content, and branding, and then the top is like speaking, podcasting, and stuff like that. So we help people establish their pyramid of authority and building a personal brand. And then AgencyBox is my other company. And AgencyBox, what we do is we help other people who are interested in starting a marketing agency or currently run a marketing agency. We help them automate and systemize their business. So rather than them having 100 employees like I do and slaving away, they get to basically use my software, my system, my tools, my people as their support system. So when they close a client, instead of them doing it, they actually outsource it to my team. Instead of their team communicating with the clients, it's my team doing it. So we've established really efficient processes where we've got 4,500 agencies that use the platform now, and that's kind of it. Now, the question on like establishing companies, it's like a lot of people they're trying to discover like what's the opportunity, how do I scale my business, and it's a simple process. So in order to scale any product or service, you got to, number one, be adding more value than you're taking. One of my mentors, his name's Brian Sidorsky. He lives up in Canada. He was my first like billionaire mentor. The guy's worth like 700 million, but we'll just round up. And he said, Dylan, the formula to making money is simple. You want to make more money, just add more value. Find a lane in the world where you can just add insane amounts of value, and you'll have limitless earning potential. So that's when I chose like marketing. I'm like, the pandemic showed everyone that that being online is no longer a luxury, but it's a necessity. You have to be doing it. And I do what I do. I wake up every day so that the next time, if anything like that ever happened again, or the wave of online continues to happen, these mom and pop shops that got destroyed aren't going to get destroyed anymore. It's totally unfair that these guys who've been supporting local businesses and communities for decades were the first ones to go out of business. Why? Because they didn't know how to generate attention online. So what I do is simple. I go out, I help these businesses, I help teach other people how to get these businesses. We get them more attention, we get them more eyeballs, and we hopefully help them sustain their business so they don't ever get crushed again.
Well, I love that. So it seems like with these 2 companies you have, there's 2 sides to this, right? There's the side of just the marketing gasoline and the getting your authority out there, the speaking, and then once you kind of use that to build your business and get the customers, get the cash flow going, then to manage that. And I mean, sometimes am I alone in that it sort of hurts my head when you think about like if you want to be known for things, you want to get the speaking gigs, and it seems like the gap between wanting to be well known and wanting to be like invited on stages versus creating the content, it seems like there's a huge gap, right? It seems like there's a lot of like daily like content and planning and posting and getting traffic that needs to be done. I mean, am I right or wrong in there? Like there's seems like a lot to be done in kind of that space.
Yeah, I mean the reality is, hey, what's up? Dude, I'll come help you in like 15 minutes. Do you mind turning the light off? Yeah. Thanks, dude.
There's part of you being busy right there, right?
Yeah, it's part of being busy. Chris, say what's up.
Hey, Chris.
He's one of the closers on our team here. So, but yeah. So, the thing is like there's a ton of work to be done. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done. Like people, I've kind of stopped talking about content creation and the content system because it's quite frankly overwhelming. Like, to tell someone, hey, you gotta be posting. Instagram just came out and they said they want you to be posting 3 to 5 times per day. I'm like, in what reality is like the ordinary person going to be able to make that happen? Like, I have content teams, and I we'll go through periods of time where I don't have enough content to make that happen. So I think it's really overwhelming for a lot of people. And then there's this gap of like, there's people who are speaking on stages, and then there's people who are like wanting to build a brand. It's almost like the gap between the rich and the poor, right? It's like widening. And it's almost like this gap between the people who have a personal brand and are like doing the whole thing, and the people who don't, or like wanting to do it, is so far. It's becoming further and further apart. So I think for most people, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around that, but they know in today's era, you have to be doing it. So for those people who are like, who want to take action and want to start making it happen, really the thing is you just have to, rather than getting in your head, you just have to commit to some kind of action, something that's real for you. So if for you it's, hey, I can post twice a week, cool. Like my mom, she owns a small like skincare business, and she'll show me, hey Dylan, I made this Instagram post. Oh, that's cool. Like it looks not that good, but she's like, I'm like, how long did it take you? She's like, oh, like all weekend. Like I started like Friday night and I posted it Sunday night. And I'm like, this is not the thing. So like, but for her, okay, one post per week, that's your thing. Like, cool, just do it. But if you can get to the point where you're posting multiple times a day, like that's really the sweet spot.
Yeah, so it seems like there's like the goal that you want to shoot for. There's what you, in a perfect world, what you would do to satisfy Instagram's wishes and their algorithm. And it also seems like there's a matter of like, you take that imperfect action and then you build the muscle, right? Like maybe your mom, at first it took her a whole weekend to make that one Instagram post. Maybe once she gets used to Canva or Photoshop or whatever, maybe she can reduce that to like half a day or like an hour, and then block out that 1 hour per week, and then from there kind of get something sort of consistent on there. And it's always cool to kind of see it being done. Like you, we mentioned that you work with guys like Gary Vee, and I love seeing like Grant Cardone just post like a freaking machine. Or like a few months ago I saw like Damon John from Shark Tank was running like Facebook ads to an opt-in page, and at first I was kind of puzzled. I'm like, Damon John has got to have like so many billions of dollars. Why the heck is he going out of his way to like have like a landing page and like email opt-in form? And I'm thinking, well, it's for the personal brand sort of concept, right? And like, even like, you're here with me on a podcast, and who knows where that will end up, and how someone will be searching you, kind of like I searched you earlier and kind of found different like tidbits of what you were talking about. And like one time I interviewed some like realtor. She was like a luxury realtor in like Atlanta, Georgia, and she was on these podcasts to kind of get the SEO boost and to kind of like be kind of higher profile and be able to charge more. So am I on the right track there? Like what's like the sales pitch if someone says, okay, like why do I really need to like build this like authority content? What's like the tangible result for me? Will it be like easier to get clients, higher prices? Like what do you tell someone to kind of get them excited about this whole idea?
Well, dude, what's crazy is fun fact, Mark Cuban's the only billionaire on Shark Tank. It's kind of this illusion. It's almost like you think, oh, like Damon John, like all these guys are billionaires. I think Damon John's worth like 150 to 200 million, which, I mean, look, that's still phenomenal. But yeah, there's definitely, everyone has their next goal. One of the things that these guys do is they actually license out their personality. So if you see Damon John, actually Tony Robbins did something with what's the guy's name? He's like, all right, like the actor.
Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. He literally did an event, like a virtual event with Matthew McConaughey, like a month ago, and they had, I think it was like 2 million people opted in for it. It was like absurd. It was a crazy campaign. And so, point in saying this is like a personal brands, like the perception of Damon John is that he's way more successful than he is. Why? Because Shark Tank has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the marketing of that brand. They have created these people to be like these icons. They're sharks. You see them sitting in these big chairs. Everything about that show is designed to create this perception and illusion that these figures are huge. And look, they're successful. Mark Cuban is, again, the only billionaire there. But having a personal brand allows you to create whatever perception you want to create for the world, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of whatever you want. It's like, I personally like to meditate, and so I think like, hey, when I'm meditating, here's the vision of the day I want to live. Here's the world I want to step into, and then I just go ahead and live my life and step into that world, and I kind of create this self-fulfilling prophecy.
I love that. Like, there's like kind of like the feedback loop, right?
There is a feedback loop. Just one other thing you mentioned I wanted to touch on, which was this real estate realtor that came on and did your podcast, and she wanted to get SEO. Funny story, like one of my first press articles ever, I did this maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It was in some no-name PR site that it was like $100 to get in, like whatever it is. And the article was written, it was like influencer marketing, like how Dylan Vanas helps brands, whatever. I get an Instagram DM like the day it was published saying, hey, I saw an article, and she like used the acronym of like the site. And it was like, again, it's a no-name site. Like it's like nothing big at all. And she's like, but I want to talk to you about influence marketing. And I do influencer marketing, by the way, as one of the services in the agency. And I don't know, she had no profile picture. She had like 100 followers, private account. I was like, who's this person? But I'll get on the call anyways. I don't know why I did it, but I did. Turns out she's the vice president of a $6 billion company on the New York Stock Exchange that wanted to do a massive influencer marketing campaign because I posted some no-name press. So imagine this. Obviously, not everyone's going to get a $6 billion company reaching out to them because of something they do. But if you get one deal more, that could open up doors of opportunity, even if it doesn't even break even on your deal or whatever you paid for it, but it helps you get the ball rolling and get more stuff in the future. Is it worth it? The answer to that is, of course, is always going to be yes.
That's a good mentality, that you're looking for that one deal. And I mean, kind of like, you and me both have been on podcasts where you're just like, well, like, why am I here? And what are the downloads going to be? But then you drive yourself crazy thinking like, oh, well, if only every single minute of my time equals all this number of dollars. Or sometimes, you speak at a live event or something like that, and you're like, well, why am I here? What's the crowd size? But then if it leads to that one deal, that seems like a healthier sort of mindset to be in. And so with all the things that we could be doing, do you ever find any like difficulty in like sorting through the noise? Like in that scenario, right? You were submitting to some weird PR site, and you were talking to some weird person, and who knows, where she's coming from or where she's legitimate, but it worked out. And then, there's always that, there's always like a whole list of like, oh, I forgot that exists. Oh, here's these things I could be doing. I could be making that guest blog post. I could be making that kind of PR pitch to the local news or Entrepreneur magazine. So how do you avoid driving yourself crazy? And is there like a set of like fundamental building blocks, like things you should do, like go back to your LinkedIn profile, or like just things to do before doing anything else?
So the big thing here is like, dude, I say yes to like most things. And that's probably why I live kind of a crazy life right now. But I'm in this phase of like, dude, I gotta make more happen. Like my mission, my individual mission is to be my best self as a living, breathing example that other people can elevate their lives too. I had a really interesting teenage years, and it wasn't until I had mentors that guided me and inspired me to become a better version of myself. And so I just want to be that for other people, especially like young men who are trying to figure themselves out. Like, dude, I had a really hard time as a young, like when I was kind of like becoming, growing into like adulthood. So I think there's a big opportunity to help people there. But beyond that, you got to have your priority. I got to have my priorities straight and know like what, what comes first. And for me, a lot of it's about service. Obviously, I have to keep my lights on with the team, the company, support my employees. But it's like, how can I serve and how can I add value? So I kind of just say yes to everything until like I'm like at max capacity, and then I start to kind of filter through. But as far as people trying to establish authority online and build a brand, the absolute thing, if you were to do nothing else, is find a way to tap into other people's audiences. Even if you go on someone's podcast, even if they have 10 listeners, like there's a chance that one of those 10 people will follow you and buy your stuff. The same thing, like for me, cost for me to acquire a customer, depending on the product, could be $1,000 to could be $25,000-$30,000 to acquire a customer. The thing is even on the lowest end, $1,000 is what I'd pay through other channels. So, what would be worth if I potentially get one person? So joint ventures are huge for me. One of the biggest things I did was partnering with people who have an audience, get them to blast their list, and I give them a commission on sales that come through. Podcast is a great second. Speaking on stages is a great third. Really, whatever you can do to get in front of someone else's audience.
I love it. So always be looking for those joint ventures, because it's so easy to just be sitting in your office and making some grandiose world domination plans and clicking around on websites, but then how far is it going to get you versus tapping into these networks where they've been building them up for years. They have millions of people, and if they just send the one email blast or the one social media post, then that'll pay off for you. And so I can tell there's a lot of like entrepreneurial like mindset in here. Like you talk a lot here about goals and about meditation and things like that. Is there something that stands out to you as far as like something that you think you do mindset wise that a lot of us aren't doing and maybe need to be paying attention to?
Yeah, biggest thing for me is accountability, personal accountability. Every single thing in my life, from the time I stub my toe in the stairs, walking up the stairs, or to the time where I got in a car accident or speeding ticket, like I have extreme accountability for everything in my life. And what that's allowed me to do is understand I'm not the victim of my circumstances, but rather the creator. And I think that as a society, there is a lot of conversation uh about making people feel like they're a victim, like they're at effect of it. Reality is we are creators. We have the ability to create what we want in our life. And so for me, every day I wake up and dude, I've had crazy things, like things that you would never be able to write in a book happen, both good and bad. The bad ones, I'm always gonna say like maybe it wasn't my fault. Maybe like I didn't create it, but it's my responsibility to make the most of it and learn through it. And I think that's one thing. If everyone took extreme accountability for their entire life, I think the world would be a much better place, because then people would realize they can change their life and actually make it better.
I love that, because what comes to mind there is if you don't take that responsibility, if you're stuck in that victim mindset, then when things happen to you, you don't have to change, right? Because you're just like, oh, it's out of my control. It's something that came externally. But if you put yourself in that situation, or you let yourself hang around those friends, or if you have those people that you kept letting them do X to you, then after a while, it's like maybe you should get new friends, be in a different situation, try other things, and realize that life, it doesn't just have the good. You need to be looking at the bad and the good, and you can't expect all good things to happen to you, because there's all the randomness and the chaos. And so this has been a great conversation we've been having. And as we're winding down, I'd like to put my guests on the spot, and I like to ask them about like advice they wish they gotten 20 years ago, right? You talk about those crazy teenagers or those crazy young adult years. And it's and many times we think, well, man, like that one thing could have helped me along or shortcut so much. So does anything come to mind as far as advice you wish you'd gotten 20 years ago from your future self?
Yeah. So there's one and a half. The first thing is like all of social media is fake. Majority of people's followers are fake. Even Kim Kardashian, she created her social media following. She paid paparazzis to follow her around, take photos, and post it in the tabloids. Like what you see is not reality. Reality is what you feel instinctually, and we know what truth is. So when some guy's out here, some guy that you went to high school with that's driving a Lamborghini, and you're jealous of it, maybe he really did get that, but it could just be perception isn't always reality. Now, to extrapolate that, what's the fastest way to get what you want in life? It's find someone who has what you want and convince them to show you the formula on how they did it. I'm a big believer in that. You don't have to become the entrepreneur or the CEO. You can become the number two. Heck, go find someone like me, go be the number two, and like work for that person for a decade or 5 years. Because my biggest leaps have been when I took back my ego and said, okay, like I don't need to be the guy. Let me just learn and build the systems, and then like eventually I can be the guy. And so I think just like people knowing that you can learn while you earn, but more importantly, just build a skill set and find someone who you can model their life after.
I love that. Mentors, don't let the ego get in the way. And so while we're digesting your advice and taking action and looking into what you have next, can you plug those two companies again? Can you tell us, after we've listened to this interview with you, we want to take those next steps, take those actions so that we're not just learning, but we're also implementing. What's the call to action here? What's the next step? What website should someone go to find out more about you?
Yeah. So if you're trying to grow a personal brand, mindfulagency.com. If you're trying to develop a business, or you have an agency and you want to take it to the next level, AgencyBox.com. And then my social media, Dylan Vanas. It's pretty much the only communication channel that I see directly. So everything else kind of gets filtered. So if you want to touch base, that's kind of where to do it.
Fantastic. Mindfulagency.com and AgencyBox.com. And then look up Dylan Vanas on social. That's DYLAN, last name VANAS. We'll see you there. If you got a little bit of a taste of what Dylan's all about and you want to kind of soak up more of that and see what he has going on, and if your company is the right fit, to start that conversation with him and see if they can help you with the personal branding or the management of your agency, then check him out, Dylan Vanas. And it's super great talking to you, Dylan, and connecting and practicing what you preach, right? Instead of just talking to the same old circle of people, you're getting yourself out there, and I'm doing the same thing, right, with the podcasting. So it's great to connect with you.
Yeah, likewise. Good to be here.